Hey everyone, how's it going? So, I want to talk about a line of dialogue said in episode 3. And so, obviously, this will contain spoilers for the episode, at least in terms of that scene, anyways. And this won't contain really major spoilers because the line of dialogue isn't really spoilery at all. But I do think hints at something that's to come in later episodes. And so, I want to talk about it because I do think it was very foreshadowing. And I mean, saying that line, saying exactly what Rosita said, introducing that, obviously you're going to get the fan base talking. And so I really do believe that it was foreshadowing. So anyways, before we go any further, obviously this will contain spoilers for episode 3. And if you are new here, make sure to hit subscribe if you want more Walking Dead content like this, but let's jump into this. So, Rosita in episode 3, while they were out there looking for horses to bring back to Alexandria, mentions that lately she's been having dreams of Abraham. And so we get an Abraham mention, which was really exciting. And what she says is that, yeah, she's been having a lot of dreams of Abraham lately. At first it scared her, but now she thinks that he's trying to tell her something. And Rosita believes and knows, or she says anyways, that she knows it's important. And she thinks it's something to do with her or like us or whatever in Alexandria. But she believes it is very important. It's something for her to do, and he's trying to send her a message, and she can't quite hear him because he's kind of inaudible. But as soon as she starts to understand what he's trying to say, all of a sudden he gets shot in the head, and then the moment's over. So this moment, I do believe, is a foreshadowing moment. You know, regardless of what it's actually going to mean, if it hints at anything with Gabriel killing someone or someone killing Gabriel, or like, you know what I mean? Like, regardless of any of that, I do believe that this moment is foreshadowing. Writers do a lot of things like this all the time. And I definitely think this is something to get people talking, right? Like, I do think this dream, whatever is going to happen here, is something that will play out in part 2. Probably not right away. This is definitely something that they seeded in here, right? Like they planted it here so that in part 2, you know, once we're on like episode anywhere from episodes 9 to 16, Rosita's gonna start to, I guess, experience whatever it is that Abraham is trying to tell her. And then at that point, I do believe that, yeah, we're going to look back at this moment and be like, oh yeah, that was totally foreshadowing of that. But little did we know it actually meant this sort of thing, right? And so I actually do believe that this could mean that Abraham could return to the show. And so I kind of want to talk about that for a little bit, because I think that could be something that is very exciting, right? Like, Abraham could return to The Walking Dead. I think it would be super cool. And like, it is the final season, so you want to do things like that, right? Like, it's the final season, so you want to bring moments like that, I would say, to the show. And I think having him come back would be pretty cool. I do remember Michael Cudlitz saying actually he was going back to direct an episode. I mean, I think it would be cool if not only did he direct an episode, but he also filmed a little scene, right? Just because, like, it is going to be hard. Like, at this point, it will be very hard to determine whether or not certain actors are going to be there for directing or for actually appearing. And for moments like that where you do get a returning actor, like, it is something that, like, we're never going to know for the most part until it happens. Because it seems like nowadays a lot of spoilers don't come out. I will say that. Like, unless you watch on cable, you know what I mean? So, like, you haven't watched episode 3 yet. So in terms of watching this video, yeah, you'll probably be spoiled of what happens in episode 3. And that is kind of one of those things, too, where it is hard for me to talk about episode 3. But there are certain ideas that I have to talk about now that I can't really wait until next week, because at that point, no one really cares to talk about those things because we've already watched the next episode, right? So there's a lot of people, and it is the majority of the channel. It's a huge portion of the channel that wants me to do the videos right away. But I just, you know, I try to remain as spoiler free as I can in terms of titles and thumbnails. I mean, it's hard because you kind of have to like ride the line a little bit, right? You want people to understand what you're talking about, so you got to kind of put it in the title, but you don't want to spoil people. So it is hard. Like for the Eldon's possible death video, I had to add possible in there because I had Eldon's death and whatnot. But it was like, people right away thought I meant Eldon's death. And I was like, well, no, I'm just saying, like, if you would watch the video, you would see right away. Like, you would see it right away. Obviously, if Eldon actually died, I would never put that in the title. That would be insane. So people got a little upset about that. But yeah, I would just say watch the video first. Don't just react to the title, right? But yeah, so that's why I had to add the possible in there, so people know that, like, yeah, which I probably should have did anyways. So yeah, that was kind of on me a little bit, maybe, but I guess we'll see what I name this video, right? I mean, what do I put, like Abraham's warning to Rosita, or Rosita dreaming of Abraham, or like I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna put yet, but I guess that's a question for you guys that I'll leave down below. Like what do you think people should do? And it's not just me in general, but what do you think people should do? Because I know on Twitter and stuff like that, you should remain spoiler free, I believe, at least in terms of tweeting. But then again, the episode has been like, I just think in general with the episodes being released a week early, it messes everything up so much. Because it also isn't fair for a lot of people who have watched the episode who pay to watch the episode early. It's not like they just got exclusive access or something. Like they're paying to watch it early. You know, it's not fair for a lot of those people to just stay quiet about it all week, right? I believe it isn't fair. I think that if you've watched the episode, you're paying for a streaming service, you should be able to talk about it, right? If something dropped on Netflix, you would be talking about it. Maybe there's like a day or two where you wouldn't post anything about it yet, you know, in terms of, you know, people who do have AMC Plus not seeing it. But I think people waiting a whole entire week to talk about something like that it's a long time. It really is. But like, again, this just comes back to AMC releasing this a week early. It does just, it sucks for a lot of people. Everything's everywhere right now. Like everyone, like I don't even know what episode I'm on right now. I swear to God, I keep forgetting. I'm on episode 4. We're going into episode 4 this Sunday, but like we just finished episode 2 last night, which I find so weird. Anyways, I hope in part 2 they don't do this anymore. It seems like they're doing this with Fear and World Beyond. Personally, I am not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it, but we'll see what they do in the future. Anyways, I kind of rambled off here a little bit, but let's talk about Rosita's dream here and everything that was happening with her and Abraham. Obviously, Rosita said that she does believe it could be something that Abraham is trying to tell her, which, I mean, it really depends on what it could be. And so I have a few things here on just things that I think it could be anyways. And I believe that regardless of what it is something regarding Gabriel. Now, it could be like maybe Rosita's the one that pulls the trigger on Gabriel, right? Or maybe it's kind of something that happens in the final season, or no, we're in the final season, but in part 2 where Gabriel kills Rosita. Like, obviously, Rick in the comic kills Dwight during a very crucial scene. I don't see this happening here. I just don't. But maybe we do see something where, like, Rosita's being a little crazy and just saying, like, we can't join them, this and that, and she wants to pull the trigger on Pamela Milton. And then so Gabriel's like, if you do that, we're all dead kind of thing. And so Gabriel just kills Rosita. You know what I mean? Like, we're all debating as to who's going to be doing that. I do believe Gabriel's going to be in that position. Like, the more and more I think about it, I used to think Daryl would do that to Magna. At this point, I kind of believe Gabriel's going to be the one to do it because they're hinting at something with the character. They're making the character go somewhere. So I believe, yeah, Gabriel could be in that position where he does something, where he pulls the trigger on someone. Is it Rosita or is it Magna? I mean, you can really choose, but like maybe, like possibly this is something regarding that. Abraham's trying to tell Rosita, like, Gabriel is dangerous. He's going to do this kind of thing, right? Or maybe Rosita's just having bad feelings about the relationship kind of thing and just like her future. It could be that as well. That's a possibility. And it could also just be really like, you know, a warning as to what Gabriel is turning into. I think regardless, it is something about that. I definitely think it's Abraham's warning to her that something bad is going to happen. And I do believe it's regarding Gabriel just because of the direction that he's going in right now, right? He's ruthless right now. Rosita doesn't really have much of a story right now. She's just kind of like rebuilding Alexandria. And so I think this is introducing something with her. Like, we do have to give her a story, right? Like, so far, she's really done nothing. Carol's done nothing either. Aaron, I mean, the list goes on and on. They really have done nothing because there's nothing really for them to do right now until we get to the Commonwealth arc. But the Reaper stuff obviously will be, like, that will be something that they do deal with. But I do believe this warning that Rosita's talking about, it has to be in relation to Gabriel in some sense. Either stuff that happens during the Commonwealth arc, or even Gabriel just making a really bad decision in Alexandria, maybe in terms of a big threat looming, you know, in terms of a ton of walkers arriving to Alexandria. It's going to be something. It definitely is a warning, in my opinion. It's not going to be good news, right? It's not going to be like this advice of how to live and, you know, something's going to come up very soon where you should take that chance, right? In terms of Rosita going to the Commonwealth and not staying in Alexandria. Like, I don't think it's going to be anything like that. It's too cryptic. It makes, like, if you think of the dream, Rosita's trying to find out what he's saying, but before he can say it, he's getting shot in the head. I mean, that visual right there from getting shot in the head kind of reminds me of what happens in the comic, like the scene between Rick and Dwight. So I do believe, yeah, like Rosita believes that it's a message for Alexandria, but I still think overall that it's a message maybe about Alexandria, but I do think it's a warning about Gabriel. And I do think that this is something that we're going to learn a lot more of very soon. It's going to be something that we get into as soon as like probably episode 8, I believe, 7 or 8. You know, like where we left off with Gabriel in 3, we're kind of wondering what happens with him next. And I think episode 5 is where we're going to get a lot more of that. We're just, as of now, forced to kind of wait and see, right? So yeah, I'm excited about this, but let me know what your thoughts are. Like, I actually really want to know, like, how do you guys interpret what Rosita said? Do you think it's like literally nothing at all and I'm just overreacting? Because it could be that, right? Literally, like maybe Rosita was just like, oh, I just had this dream, but it was nothing. Like maybe it meant nothing. Or if you believe it means something, then what do you think it means? Is it a warning or is it something else? Post all your thoughts down below. Make sure to be a subscriber if you want more Walking Dead content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.